Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of Spiritual Chefs. I'm Ben.
And I'm Faith.
That's right. And we're here today because it's really an awesome day. It's the 26th of May. Now, why is that important? That's important because today is the initiation of the sixth sun, according to the Aztecs, and it is also a lunar eclipse, which, as we know, eclipses are always very, very prominent in the cycle of life. So in this case, I'm gonna let you kick off, Faith, because you were the one who recommended that we talk today a little bit about the sixth sun. So so I'm interested in you letting me know, why you were so hyped up, because she was like, "Come on, we gotta do it today. We gotta do it today." So what's going on?
I guess I was really excited that those two things coincided on one day. So May 26th, where we had the lunar eclipse, and then also the sixth sun. And I have to, in true honesty, I really only recently realized about both of them. So I kind of found it on, Googling, and then, just kind of got excited about reading about both.
No, I was going to say, well, you got me excited because I could hear it in your voice. So I went ahead as well and did a little bit of research, as you say, cursory, in the sense that it's quite deep. So, but all that aside, and I ran into a documentary that was on the Gaia channel, and specifically they were talking about how with this sixth sun, it's essentially a true initiation of a new era for the ascension process of humanity. So we're going to have to be really taking charge of our emotional bodies, and there is a real sense of sort of self-empowerment that's coming with this energy, and that no one can really avoid it. That this isn't one of those times where you can kind of like choose whether you want to ascend or not. This one is like, nope, sorry, the end of the bus ride, So either you're gonna, or the train's going toot toot, right? It's all aboard. So either you're gonna get on the train or you're not gonna be on the train. So that's my pickup on it.
So kind of like we're all at a point where we're making a choice of whether or not we're going to ascend with this energy, or whether we're not. And so that is a choice that we can make, and that's part of our free will. Go ahead.
No, real quick, I was just saying, the interesting thing about this documentary is that they were speaking about today's event from the past. Like, they were speaking about today's event from 2012. As an addition to remember all the hype that was going on with 2012?
Yeah.
So they were also speaking about this next stage here with the sixth sun in relationship to the fact that 2012 was coming up, and that was going to be an incredible shift of energy. So if we all can think back collectively to our own sort of spiritual memory in our own lives of how much we've shifted since 2012 to today, I'm sure all of us are kind of going like, whew, wow, yeah. Been through some stuff, but been through some stuff, not just on the level of just sort of suffering through life, but like we're having a real shift, correct. And a new identification with a part of you that used to be the kind of thing you would only kind of, share with friends and close family or something like that, and talk about it in close quarters, but you never would really want to be known to be, into that kind of stuff. But now it's sort of, at least for me anyway, now I'm kind of like, oh no, baby, this is what I'm all about, So at least that's been for me,
Yeah, you might have been kind of labeled as quacky back in the day, or, but now I think people are feeling much more comfortable talking about it, connecting with it, and identifying with it. But you bring up a good point, though, in terms of sometimes I feel like it's all sort of a little disconnected, and we're all trying to connect it. So you've got the ascension, and then, over here we've got lunar eclipse, and then sixth sun, and then, everybody trying to sort of, like you said, recognize shifts within themselves, whether they're going plant-based or whether they're meditating more, or all those kinds of interchanges that I think
what's
people are.
conflict resolutions and so
Yeah.
forth. Mhm.
But if we could kind of tie it under this umbrella that the universe is shifted from like this 3D to 5 dimensional, and we all have a choice of whether we're going to tap into that higher energy as we move through life now. So that's and like I said, just all of us sort of just feeling this comfort level to sort of talk about it and not sort of feel like like you said, like, I'll just talk to my brother about it or my sister about it or my close friend, but I certainly wouldn't want my job to know or anybody else to know, that I have this spiritual connection.
Mm-hmm. Even our close relationships, or especially the close relationships, more like, spouses or boyfriends and girlfriends,
Yeah.
And how, even there seemed to be before a sort of a way space or middle space where things could be binary, should say, things could be, what's the word I'm looking for? Binary, we'll just use binary. They could be, dual, they could have duality is where those.
Yeah.
They could be dual in the sense that, you could sort of be tapping into this, but you didn't really have to be committed to it. And you could just sort of have there was a safe space that you could sort of ride in. And it just feels like it's just been closing and closing and closing and closing to where there's no more safe space. It's like they've taken the scaffolding down and your building has got to hold itself up, on its own accord. And so all your relationships with your spouse and your children, all of it has got to be touched, by this fifth dimensional energy. And you're really, at least I'll speak for myself, I'm really feeling the urgency without any fear, just urgency as far as timeliness is concerned, to be fully committed and to fully allow the space within my being for the soul energy to come raining down, and it be the primary source of identification that I use, as opposed to before these sort of ego-driven constructed things that we have to build for society and our circumstances, and we have to live behind these sort of things, so, the Rolex or whatever, or the car I'm driving, or I don't know, those are the first things that popped in my head. But that sort of exterior identification, as opposed to just letting your soul energy, be the main source of identification of your being. And that whoever you show up and speak with, whether it's the bus driver or the banker or your doctor or whoever it is you got in front of you, all you're doing is shooting out this soul energy to them, and it's like your only business card is that,
Yeah, that sort of authenticity part of it, just your true, like you said, your inner soul. How much do you think that the pandemic, it sort of shut us all down and maybe kind of forced our hand in a way to do all that introspective work?
And I kind of feel something I'm being channeled now about that is that, since everything derives from the higher, because that is the source of creation of all things. So even though sometimes something might look to be negative or whatever, its true source, the true source of it is always from the higher plane. It is always from the divine. And so regardless, without getting into conspiracies or whatever, regardless of how it came about, everything always ends up being used for the higher. And so it all depends, again, since this plane is not an eternal plane, it's very, very, very chronological. It's just, again, the choice. How do you want to respond to this? Because anything that happens has been allowed. Because trust me, if it wasn't in the plan, it ain't gonna happen.
I like
the part. That's what I'm feeling.
Yeah. And especially the fear part. Like that is, I think we're all really having to make that choice, whether we want to say it or not. So I'm just gonna put it out there. I think this fear thing is really
Wildfire.
gripped us all in a way. I know for myself, like I find myself like I have to fight through it, like almost like a boxing match, like oh Lord,
Well,
okay, this fear,
because
you
yeah,
know.
it's like think about it. What happens if I'm in the room and I'm smoking a cigarette? Right now that I'm smoking, but imagine I'm smoking a cigarette. One person smoking a cigarette is not the same as if 40 people in the room, one is smoking, or 40 people in the room and 35 are smoking. Correct?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much more smoke. So that fear is it's like an energy cloud. Every thought we have has power to it.
Yeah.
So when you start to compound it, plus you get the media, they're out there just cranking it up even more so. And even the ones who are sort of anti that, they're also kind of anti from a fear perspective. So
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter, because the truth is, this is the one of those key things you got to understand all the time. You might be very adamant about being against something, but if you're against it at the same level that it's coming at you, all you're doing is contributing to the fear. Even though you're saying they're the bad guys, I'm the good guy, and they're over there saying, no, you're the bad guy, I'm the good guy, if you will. Everybody's just contributing to that fear cloud. And that's what has to be avoided.
Right.
Is to understand that you've got to elevate yourself above the fear and understand that things are not manipulated from down here. This is a reactionary place. This is where things are a result of stuff that's been happening in higher planes. So what you want to try to always do is raise yourself up as high as you can in your consciousness so that you can begin to manipulate things as well from higher planes. And the only way you can do that is obviously with more love and with more spiritual intuition and connecting with higher, your higher self, because not all of you is inside of this body. There's portions of your soul that are on higher planes, and you have direct connection with that. And those parts are connected with even higher. So you get this, you can have this real sense of channeling that comes straight down into this little weeny, weeny body, but it'll be anchored in something that's higher. So rather than, getting stressed out because it's Twitter feed and what they said on the news and, oh my God, and this is going to happen. No. Just relax. The planet's been here billions of years. Sun's been here billions of years. God knows how old the universe is. Nobody's going to perish. Relax. It's all good. And this body in any way was designed to expire at some point anyhow. So you don't want to be focusing so much on that part. You want to be focusing on the spirit within.
Yeah, on the living part. That's a good point. So I think that as we sort of even think of, so we named fear. Another one, I think, which is probably in the same context of, anxiety, doubt, all those things that we have that sort of take us and leave us in this sort of negative space. Almost like changing out those cards for like love and peace and compassion and abundance.
I like that analogy. I like that analogy.
Just, just switch your cards out, because those other cards aren't serving you anymore. And just sort of realize I need a new deck. And that's what I'm trying to
new deck.
do individually with myself. And it's funny, I picked 5 things that I was really trying to focus on. And, I'm a human being, so I get it right sometimes and sometimes I don't. But it's just the focus of it.
Just a small interruption, apparently even from the higher realms, they all applaud us for having the courage to incarnate down here. You know what I'm trying to say? So believe me, they're all like, oh, no, we get it. That's a crazy place down there. So you're more than welcome. Anyway, go ahead.
So, so eat. And so I'll just go through my little 5 list. So plant-based, I'm really, really trying to get more, fruits and vegetables, understanding that is how my vehicle, my body can work best. And that's a road for me, like some people say plant-based, like that was the easiest thing. I just went plant-based. I loved meat. I love, and so
at least my body speaks strongly to me.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, so that's been one of the things, and I do feel better. So I know that my body has responded to that well. way less news like we talked about. I was a news junkie. News. I don't even know if it's news half the time. It's just
Well,
sometimes
because
it's just,
that has shifted as well, actually.
yeah.
It's not like it was before. I can remember, and I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you, but I
No,
can
no,
remember when
no.
CNN started, for example, just to give you one example, or any of the other ones, where there was more of a sense of objectivity, and they had some real hardcore journalists, and now the real journalists are in the field. Yeah, you'll see them in Gaza, you'll see them in Minsk, you'll see them in, what's happening in Guatemala, but they're not in the anchor, position.
It's shifted. I get your point on the fact that it's shifted. And for me, more to the point of what I'm trying to work on, like I said, shifting out my cards, if you will. If I sit and watch the news for 30 minutes and then I'm just filled with fear, then I'm like, okay, well, what service have I personally done for myself? So that's one of the things. And then nature, nature, getting out and connecting with nature. I mean, nature being the most peaceful, free thing that we have. I mean, like we can go out and
Yes.
just breathe fresh air and look at the trees and all of those things. So that's my third one. Practicing just intention, just being more, practicing being more, having intention, positive intention, if you will. And then we already touched on my fifth and my biggest one is sort of the fear thing. And I was actually talking to a group of friends, and I started saying, hey, I'm not even going to say the word. I'm just going to call it the F word. Like I want to just get rid of it, So that's my new F word, getting rid of the, fear. Yeah, fear.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, what about you? What are some, you don't have to have five, but what are some of the things that you're just feeling like this new ascended energy is kind of compelling you to do or to change in your life or?
Yeah, well, I guess, in some ways it's in tune with, in general, when one is trying to really be focused about how you're spending your energies, right? So in my case, though, I have to say it is really about a sort of an ancient memory, if you will, that I have, if you will, sort of an ancient message of, there's going to be a time when things are going to be very different, and you're going to need to be very, very connected to your higher self, and only connected and dependent on your higher self. So that's what I'm feeling like. All of a sudden, like the alarm is going off. This is that time.
Yeah.
Because before you could see it as kind of coming down the line and you would see signs, whatever. But now I'm really feeling like they're saying, okay, yeah, it's now. Yeah, come on, it's now, come now. And so that's why for me, even today, right, the 26th of May, this sixth sun emerging and the lunar eclipse, it was very important to do the show today, not because we necessarily had something spectacular to add to it, but in the sense only that the wave, the amount of droplets or the amount of drops that needed to be, or the grains of sand that need to be on that beach, it needs to be as many as possible.
Yeah.
So we need to show up in order to contribute whatever small piece of channeling that we could to help that wave, counter the F word that you're talking about.
Exactly.
So that's my main thing. And then also how it is, and allowing it to transform all of my relationships, you just, and I want to underscore the word allow, right? Because we're so prompted so many times to think there's something we've got to do, something you're supposed to do, some sort of lacking there. And instead of saying, no, I am just going to let myself be whatever, and I'm going to trust that outcome, whatever it is. Don't matter what nobody says, anybody says, right?
Yeah.
And just,
we're doing today, we're just out there talking. Like we just got to do more of that as a society, and not just have this, structured thing. And this is how I have to be. And that's just gotten to be very exhausting.
It's very exhausting.
So exhausting.
Correct.
Yeah.
And shaking off exactly that's sort of the shackle of personal veracity, so that you can begin to be your real self, and everybody's going to be at different points, and that's going to look different, from different people. But there is no shortcut to even experiencing yourself. So the longer you sort of shroud yourself, then the more time it takes for you to really get in touch with yourself and begin to produce co-create a life for you that is in tune with you, with whom you really are. Because there is no amount of external approval of your behavior that can surpass your own inner sense of harmony. And so just try to remember, that inner harmony is more important than external approval. So, everybody's giving you accolades, doesn't matter. If it doesn't feel quite right on the inside, you're supposed to be doing something else.
That's a good
one. And I say that, being, an artist as I am, and, how fame, it's a drug, like heroin or so forth. And, every time you need a bigger dose, because it's sort of momentary, right?
Yeah.
Because it's coming from the outside. You have to get to the point where you feel that sort of elation. You're on your own, sitting on the grass in the middle of the park, as you said, next to a tree, sitting at the base of a tree, and just feeling yourself one with the universe, and then getting that same level of elation as if, 60,000 people are out there, cheering your name.
Yeah.
And you just know you
Great
killed
point.
it. You killed it. They're like,
yeah.
I'm trying to say.
Right.
But it totally feeds your ego, I'm trying to say. Whereas the other one, you just simply feel like you're a part of this incredibly huge energy field that just goes on and on and on, and it just makes you feel so empowered,
Right. So the spirit doesn't need much at all, with your analogy of 60,000 cheering you on, as opposed to a tree and a moment, and just that's it.
And that's it.
So I love that. I love that analogy. Well,
so
cool.
I had made, go ahead. I made some notes on the sixth sun.
Okay.
Just some talking.
Yeah. Go ahead. Talk about it.
So, excuse me. I need to get my fake eyes. So as they were saying, right. So as I was saying, okay, it's kind of going over what I was saying before. I did remember some of the points. So we're like forced to change and awaken. So let's talk about that for example.
These are the Aztecs that are kind of this was the sixth sun, which the Aztecs have sort of predicted was going to be happening at this time. So go. Tell me what you read.
And speaking about that with the Aztecs, that those Aztecs, in their calendars, they were speaking of things that had happened astronomically, 2 million years ago, and they had stuff talking about what was going to happen in the coming 2 million years. So these guys had calendars that were talking about spaces of time that were astronomically large, and that we don't have any sort. None of our science has any sort of way of even beginning to if you say validate any of that, so to speak. Or cross-reference it in any way. So what that's telling us is that these guys were tapped into, from one way or another, extraterrestrials, I don't know, but they were tapped into a database, of knowledge that clearly is talking about the expansiveness of creation. And it helps put your mind in the right place, because they were talking about, for example, how we have the precession of the planet, right? That wobble that Earth has, that every 26,000 years, it makes a complete wobble, even though it's circling the thing. Well, also, the Milky Way galaxy also is going around our star, not the galaxy, sorry. Our solar system is also moving around the galaxy. Now, that full precession is in the millions of years, like, I don't know how many millions of years. So we're talking about cycles that are so large, correct?
Yeah.
And why is that? The reason I'm making that point is that the point of ascension is that if you correlate that to the fact that also we think of our civilization, our life, this particular span of, caveman to whatever, as being like the only trajectory of sort of humanoids or living beings on this planet, but we don't have a clue because we have no idea really how old the planet is and how old things are, right? And so we don't know how many cycles of civilizations and all kinds of stuff have transpired here, the same way you've got 26,000 years for the wobble of the planet and millions of years for the solar system to make it around the Milky Way. And you know what I'm trying to say? And the Milky Way is circling around somewhere else on some other ridiculously large span of time. And so it kind of helps put things in perspective. So in regards to what they were saying about the Ascension, well, clearly, there's certain alignment that is coming up now that does pertain to this cycle of evolution of human beings or humanoids, if you will, right? And it does pertain to our cycle. So even though there's these huge cycles going out there, this one is relevant to us right now, and we need to understand that these kind of cycles are going on and that they're bigger than we are. So it's all about just aligning yourself with it rather than fighting it, understanding things are changing. And that it is the same way you get an umbrella when you think it's going to rain. You don't sit there and go, no, it's supposed to be sunny today, you just get yourself an umbrella, right? So this is a change of the weather. Get yourself an umbrella, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And
good point.
And just align yourself with it and let it do what it needs to do and just relax into it.
Yeah. So what were the points? You had some points about that sixth sun. Was
So
there
another one was taking charge of your dream state.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah. So that's about, I don't know everyone else, but I'll speak for myself, about my definitely feel my dreams. With my family, we've always traditionally called them visions to sort of separate that from a dream, right? My visions, dream visions, are quite instructive and informative as far as helping me stay on my particular life track. Now, what does that mean? That, every incarnation, if you believe in reincarnation, and even if you don't, this one still has a purpose, correct? So that purpose, because just like when you're trying to go from, trying to drive from your house to the supermarket, there are many different roads you could go down and never make it to the supermarket, correct?
Yeah.
Even though you had a map and they told you, okay, you just got to turn right, go down the street, and then turn left. Like, it was really easy, but somehow you saw this, you went down this alleyway and you saw something else. So the same thing is happening in our lives, but we got to remember there is this one particular sort of path that we're supposed to eventually get to. Yeah, you can preamble a little bit. That's okay. They're fine with that, but, don't get too far off. So in my life, when I'm kind of getting too far off, they'll come and they'll say, hey, that thing you're doing, or this is this, or this is the kind of energy you're dealing with, or this is why you're struggling, or, you're not tapping into this, or they'll give me sometimes some very representative imagery that with telepathy at the same time, that if I'm smart and I pay attention, it usually will put me in a place I could have never imagined. Right. And when I don't listen to it, I also end up in a place I never could have imagined, but not so cool. You know what I'm trying to say?
And not peaceful. Yeah.
And not peaceful. And
not that inner peace. Yeah.
And so while it's not about just being a sheep, because clearly, you have to use your will. Right. But at the same time, you want to kind of begin to pull that into your reasoning. So it's not only what you read in the book or what they said on TV or what your friend said, but you want to add that to your palette of reasoning so that you can get some help from those from that energy that can see beyond what we can see as human beings.
Yeah. So that sixth sun, or that shift from a fifth to the sixth sun, is really an energy source, a higher energy source that we can tap into for higher things in our lives, or sort of,
And that's that alignment I was talking
That
about.
alignment, yes, that's what a word I was looking for. That's alignment.
The alignment I was talking about. And on that thought, sis, of alignment, precisely, all of those who are fighting it, correct? That is going to be a real source of upheaval in society. And many things that have been used to keep us, sort of anchored in very narrow possibilities of our lives are going to be challenged, and many of them knocked down. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, those who have been benefiting from things being a certain way that's going to be shaken. And then the other side of that is all of a sudden you, in some ways, having been forced to just kind of, live with blinds on, all of a sudden the blinds come off and you're going to have to figure out what to do.
That's a good thing.
Because you've been used to having walk around with blinds on and using that to say, well, I have nothing else I can do. Now you can. So what you going to do with it? And so that brings a whole nother, pot of soup to the table,
Yeah. Well, bro, we really captured a few things here today. I love, we got to do this more often, just kind of, talking and for me, I think it's just helpful just starting the conversation. I'd love at some point we get other people just to jump in and chat about what they're doing, because I have a sense we are not the only ones out there.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That was my point. I just wanted to throw in our hat today and just contribute to the swell. You know what I'm trying to say?
To the swell.
And by all means, we gotta get some more people on, absolutely, and share in the energy in the most relaxed way possible. I agree.
Yeah. Amen.
And I also agree that I have actually overrun the time.
All right, cool. Well, peace out.
Right now.
Yeah.
Okay? So everybody, thanks for hanging in there. I hope we were able to share something that was of value for you. And we will see you next time here on Spiritual Chefs. Until then, we love you.
Peace out.
Peace out.